All right. Welcome to another edition of Shabbat Lounge. This is Matt
and Jake here,
coming to you today, talking to you about something that some of you may not want to hear, and others may look at the title of this and go, "What? What is Sabbath Lounge doing here?" So, what are we talking about today, Jake?
So the title of our presentation this time is going to be How Moses Stole Christmas. And that sounds very similar to something that this time of year other people might relate to, which is what?
How the Grinch stole Christmas?
Right. So you see at the bottom there, the biblical story as told by Dr. Seuss.
And do they still show this on TV? Or is it like Charlie Brown Thanksgiving and they can't show it anymore?
I don't know. I don't have TV, so I could not tell you.
Yeah, I don't know. But like many of you, we grew up with this tradition. This was something that your family did. And especially back in the day when, I am so old that I grew up in a time I can remember when like Fox came into being, and then that was like the fourth channel. Like, well, we got 4 channels.
Yeah, 4chan they call it now.
Mm-hmm. Is that what that is?
I have no idea.
I've always wondered.
I have no idea.
No, it's not. So, but yeah, it was a big deal, and we would gather around and watch it. And as kids, we're like, "Yay, it's coming on!" Even though we watched it year after year. And then when I taught school, I showed this. I read the book. I would do compare and contrast. Do all kinds of things. It was a fun.
Did you compare and contrast it the way we're going to do today?
Not exactly.
Okay.
Not exactly. So you probably haven't heard this anywhere before. So this is fresh and new, straight from Sabbath Lounge.
That's right. Only the best.
That's
now,
right.
I know this is a lot of people. This is their favorite story this time of year for the Christmas season.
I'm covering up our faces.
With our faces.
Yes.
So if you have small kids, they might need to leave their... No. We don't want to ruin dreams.
No, we don't. We don't want to shatter dreams.
But truly, this came about. We were reading through the Torah portions, and one of the verses, it took one verse to just catch my ear and, flash me to this. So let's just kind of see what we got here. So if we go to the next page here, we got, all right. So many in our walk, we've clearly told people we don't like Christmas. We don't do Christmas. And what would they say to you?
How dare you do that to the children?
Well, yes. It's all about the children.
How you rob them of their joy.
Well, perhaps they would think that your head was not screwed on right.
That you're crazy.
Maybe your shoes are just too tight.
Very good.
And then you might even be accused of your heart being 2 sizes too small, right?
Yes. Very Grinchy of you.
It is very Grinchy. Because it fits the theme of what we're talking about. All right. So we put together kind of a comparison, and you'll see the story from Exodus matched up with kind of the Grinch story is kind of how we went through it.
So we've got Mo says and Seuss says, but something interesting that happened when I said Seuss out loud earlier, I was like, "Hey, Seuss," and then I went Zeus says. I don't know. It was kind of interesting, the play on words that his name is. And then I read a thing where Dr. Seuss, supposedly in an interview, he said it wasn't pronounced Seuss. It was like Soyce. But I don't know. But I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. So you can track that down if the rabbits that you want to follow are going that direction.
Yes. If you're hunting rabbits, go there.
Yeah. All right. So why don't we'll go through the Mo says part, and then we'll kind of juxtapose it to this Seuss says part.
Okay.
So why don't you go ahead with Mo?
Moses and Joshua go up to the mountain shrouded in a cloud in Exodus 24:13-18. And then Moses gets the 2 tablets written by the finger of Elohim in Exodus 31:18. While Moses is gone, the Israelites create a holiday in which to worship Yahweh with the graven image of a golden calf, Exodus 32:1-6. And the Israelites agreed not to worship Yahweh And that's in Exodus
With graven
20.
images.
With graven images in
Right.
Exodus 20:4-6.
Right. So in Exodus 20, that's when the 10 Commandments are given, and they say, all that you've said that to do, we will do, right?
They're like, amen. Yes, we got it. The congregation says they are in agreement.
Right. So Moses goes up in this mountain in a cloud. And then how do we picture the Grinch? He goes up on the top of Mount Crumpet to live away from Whoville. He's sick of their silly festivities, right?
Mm-hmm.
And while the Grinch is away, the Who's
The mice
celebrate their festival of Christmas, right? So there's that. And then let's move on and see how this story continues to grow.
And then Yahweh tells Moses, the Israelites have corrupted themselves, Exodus 32:8. Yahweh has intention to stop these stiff-necked people from celebrating this festival, Exodus 32:10. Moses is on the mountain with the 2 tablets. Like, these are gifts, and they're the words, the precious words of instruction. And so he goes up on the mountain and gets these tablets, get these gifts, and he's about to bring them down. So it's a pretty significant moment in human history.
Right. So you have Moses tells the Israelites, and Yahweh tells Moses that the Israelites have corrupted themselves, just as the Grinch feels that the people down in Whoville have corrupted themselves with this silly Christmas festival. He can't stand it. Too much noise, and all this. And then Yahweh's like, hey, we need to stop these people from celebrating this. So the Grinch, he goes down to stop them from, keeping this festival.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so Moses is up on the mountain with the tablets, just as the Grinch, after he goes and ransacks the village, he comes back to the mountain. He's got all the gifts there.
Well, and just like Moses, you've got the scene where the Grinch is descending, going down the mountain, except he's got a sleigh and a dog. And, he hears the sound, and he hears their sound. It's like, hey, I better go check this out. And he comes down the mountain, and you kind of get some glimpses of the village and the sound coming from the village.
Yeah.
In the animation, the 1966 version.
Right. Another, just aside on this, this is always funny to me because in Exodus 32, once Yahweh's like, hey, those people down there are doing things they shouldn't be doing, and he's like, I'm angry, and I'm going to go down and smite them. And Moses is like, no, he's holding them back. Yahweh's like, hold me back, Moses. And Moses is holding them back. No, don't go down there, He's like, you don't want your name to be besmirched. And so, and once Moses sees what's going on, Yahweh's like, no, Moses, don't go down there. And Moses is like, let me through. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go down there and smite them. It's just this funny, reversal of roles. Mm-hmm. But, so back to this. So the next little thing here we got.
So Moses and Joshua go up the mountain shrouded in a cloud. Now, is this the same thing twice?
Did we do the same thing twice? Okay, looks like we got the same slide. We can just...
All right, so Moses, as they look down on the mountain, Joshua hears the noise of the people as of war in the camp. Exodus 32:17. So they think something is wrong.
Right.
And Joshua, upon further listening, realizes it's not the sound of anger or sorrow. You might say the sound wasn't sad. This sound was glad.
Right.
Exodus 32:18.
And so this verse right here, 32:18, was what really made that click to me. Was he's saying exactly that. This sound isn't a sound of sad. They're glad. There's singing in the camp. So just as Moses and Joshua are looking down and they hear this noise in the camp, Dr. Seuss, when he's talking about the Grinch, right? If you hear it or read it, says the Who's find out that no Christmas is coming, and then the Grinch is like, they'll cry boo-hoo. So he's happy about their crying and whining, and then he's like, that's a noise I simply must hear. So he puts his ear out to listen. And just as Joshua's like, what's that sound I hear? And he's like, it sounds like some terrible things happening. So let me listen closer. And so the Grinch puts his hand to his ear to hear the sound, and it's the sound rising over the snow. And it starts low and it starts to grow, right? And he's expecting this wailing and gnashing of teeth.
Well, and something that I just thought of, if I remember right, Joshua in Hebrew can mean dog. Is that right? It seems like I've heard that before. That means faithful and, faithful and loyal. And it's kind of interesting that there's a dog, and that almost represents Joshua in the story. So I'm pretty sure. So check that out and research that.
That's interesting.
I believe my source on that is Mr. Greg Widener, I believe. I remember, I think he's got a video where he talks about Joshua, being a dog, and it being like perceived as a good thing, not like as a bad thing.
Not like you dirty dog.
His qualities of being faithful and true. But I think that's right. So you'd have to check me on that.
That's interesting. Well, it is Yeshua. It is salvation, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there is this loyalty tinge to it as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's
it is Yeshua's name. So,
all right. So then Joshua, he's like, "Oh, well, as I'm listening, they're not sad down there. They're singing joyously, right?" Just as the Grinch says, that sound isn't sad. It's a sound that's glad. And then we have a treat for you. Sound treat. So this is that joyous sound that they would have heard.
Oh, it's Caleb.
Oh, Caleb.
So Caleb means dog.
Okay.
Strike Joshua, it's Caleb.
Glad we got that corrected. Although Joshua and Caleb were very close.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Okay, so we did that.
Okay.
All right.
And Mo says, now do you want me to read one and then you say this?
Yeah, you do this one, then I'll do that.
I've been doing it wrong the whole
time.
No,
that's fine.
Moses hadn't stopped idol worshiping from coming in Exodus 24. Somehow or other, it just came the same.
Yeah, go down to the next.
Moses, with his cold heart, put his hard-hearted, burdensome law on the people, and yet they disobeyed. How could this be so?
Now, you got to remember, this is when if someone's writing this about, to line it up with the biblical story, they're going to take a standard Christian understanding of their Moses, right? Mm-hmm. So this is what they would think, right? It was a cold heart. The law is cold, and grace is warm, right? So
warm and gooey.
So that's kind of where I was going there. So the contrast to that, the Grinch hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. Somehow it came just the same, right? He looks down, and then, oh yeah, he sees this sprightly figure manifest in their midst, right?
As they're standing around in a circle, holding hands, singing a song, making maybe like a seance.
Yeah.
And there's a manifestation of a light thing that rises up into the air.
Yeah, they're calling this sprightly thing into being. So
you'll never see Dr. Seuss again.
Right.
The same.
So the Grinch with his cold feet in the snow, puzzled, how could it be so, right? And just like Moses is saying, right? Somehow or other, they're down there doing it. And
totally.
So, exactly. All right, do the next one.
So their idol worship came without physical idols from Egypt. It came after the plagues, crossing of the Red Sea, the pillar of fire and smoke, and yet still they've forgotten what they are.
And I kind of tied that together with this. It came without ribbons, tags, packages, boxes, and bags, right? That's what the Grinch says. And it's like this idol worship that the Israelites were getting into. They left their idols at home. They did ransack the Egyptians, right? They were gifted these things from the Egyptians to later we find out to make the tabernacle and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then they saw the plagues where he destroys their gods, and then the crossing of the Red Sea, the pillar of smoke and fire. So even with all these things, Moses is like, how it came just the same, right? Even though we tried to shut it out.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think this next part's pretty interesting as well.
Yeah, and so did we read that part? Perhaps idol worship doesn't come from the physical. What does it say?
Hide that thing there.
Oh, no.
Now you've done it.
Physical. Oh, no. Now I've done it.
All right.
We did that earlier.
We just hold up. Oh, okay. There, it'll go away.
Doesn't come from the physical object, but from inside the sinful heart of man. So you don't have to have a physical object that's in here.
Right. So, yeah, it's ingrained in us to want to worship idols, right? Or have some kind of graven image that we're looking at. So perhaps Christmas doesn't come from a store, but means a little bit more, is what the Grinch says. And I think that's very similar to how this came about for the Israelites.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
And then we have another little treat for you here. This is that sprightly image. That's great.
So let's see that again.
Okay.
So here they are standing around in a circle, holding hands, singing. And this thing arises from their midst. Tell me that's not creepy.
It's creepy, Matt.
This is the part where some of you may be like, what? So, but most of you probably have already realized that these things were bad and pagan, but anyway.
It almost has a tinge of, I saw that when I was, looking back at and going through this, and it seemed to me very sun worshipy.
Yeah, sun worshipy, and it's a very golden calf-y moment. I mean, that's exactly kind of what I picture happening. There's this thing that's golden in the middle, and the people around it, and they were happy and merry. And in the King James, it says they rose up to play.
Yes, they rose up to play.
Which we all know what that means.
Yeah, there was a lot of naked playing going on.
Yes.
Oh, and just for the record, since we're talking about this section, because a lot of people don't realize that the golden calf thing was they think that it was other gods, but really it was Yahweh. Aaron even says, let's make a feast to Yahweh, right? And then that's what they use the golden calf to do. Yeah.
And that, by the way, that's such a weird thing, that I don't understand why Aaron doesn't get in trouble.
Yeah.
That's one of the questions I'm going to be like, okay, wait a minute. How does Aaron get to do what he does and the lineage and be a part of all that after he did that? Because the way it reads, it's just like other people came to me and they said, here's my jewelry, and now pop the golden calf.
Yeah,
that's weird.
Seems to be lying about it after.
Yes.
Like,
it just doesn't seem right.
A very childish excuse for what happened. Mm-hmm. All right. And then we have this other thing here. Small heart grew 3 sizes that day. So, just like we said at the beginning, right? Your heart might be 2 sizes too small. But once you get the hang of that Christmas, right, your heart will grow to the size it's supposed to be. So I think
you'll buy us lots of stuff.
Yeah.
And you'll keep the retailers happy.
Right.
So Moses' small hard heart saw the golden calf in the dancing, and his anger waxed hot. Ooh, which is Exodus 32:19. So waxing hot anger. I'm not sure. So do you have a lot of waxing hot anger?
I'm not sure. I think anger? Waxing like the moon, waxing and waning.
I'm thinking like a bowl of wax.
Yeah. that's the first thing I think, and then I'm like, oh wait, words mean other things.
Yes,
they have more than one meaning. Okay. So this is kind of where it departs a little. So the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. That's because Moses didn't see the joy of their festival, their Christmas festival.
He just didn't
down
get
there.
it.
Whereas the Grinch, who we should be more being like, right? We should be more following the Grinch's way of doing things, where we see the error of our ways.
Coming.
Well.
So we should
what Dr. Seuss is trying to
trees.
No.
And what Dr. Seuss presents?
Yes. No. So what Dr. Seuss is saying is, you should be emulating what the Grinch did. So you realize that you were bad for taking the joy of Christmas away from people, and your heart should grow 3 sizes to out, which is unhealthy, by the way. And so your heart should grow 3 sizes,
Yes,
and you should
that's
learn about
sad.
grace and stop being angry about us, creating our own festival. It's Yahweh. So why are you getting all crazy
Chill
about
out, man.
Yeah. All right. So
Yeah, that is really good. That is good, and that's a good flip in how you're telling it there. So we don't want to be the Grinch. Society has told us don't be the Grinch, and actually, walking in this walk, we kind of find out we might be the Grinch. Sometimes.
We feel Grinchy sometimes, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or don't be a Scrooge.
Yeah,
yeah. So check out our video on that.
Yeah. So Moses breaks the tablets and cannot bring them as gifts to the children. In Exodus 32:19, he smashes them down, smashing tablets.
Right. So this is how the Bible would have you act, right? Or not smashing the tablets, but angry and getting rid of the gifts that were going to these people who are undeserving at this point because of the craziness that they're doing. Not that you deserve his love, he gives it freely, right?
Yeah, and something interesting too that I was just thinking about in this story, you've got Moses' perspective and Yahuwah's perspective, and Yahuwah knew the whole thing. He knew what was happening. Moses had a very limited perspective, and he heard, sounds like fun down there. They're worshiping. They're awesome. I'm so happy for these guys. They finally got it.
They get it. Yeah.
They've seen all this stuff, and it's like you can see that like you were saying earlier, his perception changes so much, and as he descends and gets lower, and there's a whole thing about that. But as he's getting lower, closer to man, descending, then he realizes, whoa, this is not what I thought it was. And then what's interesting about Moses is he drops his perspective and takes on the perspective of the Father, which is what we're supposed to do.
Right. So the Grinch descends the mount, cheering and blowing his trumpet or shofar, and he brings the gifts down to Whoville and distributes them to the townfolk. Right.
Yep.
So this is a departure from the biblical story. He gives them the gifts, whereas Moses, cold-footed, no-heart man, doesn't give them the gifts.
Mm-hmm. And then Moses takes that golden calf, chops it up in little bitty pieces, and puts it in the water and feeds it to him in Exodus 32:20.
Yes.
And so, by the way, if you've never researched the significance of the golden calf, to me, this is a great story to research, and it does tie right into Christmas. And it's one of the passages that when I read it for the first time and said that passage earlier where they say, we did this for you.
Right.
That's when I went,
It sounds exactly like Christmas.
Yeah. So anyway, he feeds him the golden calf, makes him eat it, which is also another teaching, but kind of like the cup of bitter waters for the adulterous bride.
Right. Whereas we see the Grinch, he goes down, he carves the roast beast, and he feeds the Who people.
And it was, what'd you say?
It seems like it's a very unclean, if you see the picture of it, ham bird.
With some wings or something sticking out the end of it.
Yeah, it's got little bird feet sticking out of this ham. That's what it looks like. Mm-hmm. So don't fact check me on that, but it seems like an unclean ham bird to me. It
does a little bit. And he says, carve the roast beast. Yeah. And we call these the beast feast.
Yeah.
So, pun intended.
Right.
So mankind seeks to make themselves their own gods. So we want to, for whatever reason, we desire to do this.
Right. Now, usually it manifests in an image like the golden calf. But nowadays, we've gone beyond that, where we're like, we don't need an image. We can just worship. We just
need science.
We just need an idea to worship. Right? Mm-hmm. Though there are still images that...
How dare you deny the science,
people are bowing down to, right?
Yes.
And then at the end, it says a real funny thing here. Christmas will always be as long as we have we, right? It's a Dr. Seuss's little silly way of saying as long as we have each other, right? As long as we have Christmas will always be. And so as long as you're depending on ourselves and not looking to Yahweh, we'll always have Christmas.
And we'll be happy.
Yeah. So...
and in that, what a lot of people perceive as Christmas, that's the most important thing about being happy. And people go to such great extents to keep the children happy. And, they'll just pour out all kinds of crap to these children who don't have much so that they can have a bunch of crap too in their life.
Yeah.
And just because in the efforts to make the wees happy.
Yeah. I mean, the whole festivity is circles around, well, let's lie to our kids about Santa and the reindeer, and we'll lie to them that he comes to visit every house, to this omniscient Santa God that can see when you're sleeping and when you're awake and all the things you can do. And then, so who's the father of lies, Matt?
Satan. And by the way, Santa and Satan aren't that far apart.
No. So
with letters.
Yeah. So
in a red suit.
So do you know what Kris Kringle means?
I do not, Jake. Kris Kringle.
So when the German, that's the German way of saying
Dwight
him,
Schrute.
Yeah.
From The Office.
Of saying Santa's name, right? Kris Kringle.
Krampus.
Is Christ child. So if they're taking Santa and making him the Christ child, I think there's issues with that.
Yes. Very
Okay.
much so.
Anyway, so we got another couple little things here real quick. So that's that blow of the shofar, right? Let's listen to it again. So he comes down the mountain with the blowing of a trumpet. Sounds just like a shofar.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. How does this work, Matt? There. So, in conclusion.
So Moses says, idol worship has no place in the kingdom of Yahweh, which we agree and support 100%.
Yes.
Here on Sabbath Lounge.
That's right. And then the conclusion for Seuss says is that you're convinced to welcome the pagan celebration by overcoming your natural instinct to reject it. That's what the Grinch does. He's been convinced.
Wow.
And even though he had this natural instinct to say, there's something wrong about that.
Well, and you think about, too, even at the beginning of the story, the Grinch is almost like the remnant. He's isolated. He's by himself.
Yeah.
He's homesteading.
Yeah.
So he's definitely not in a big circle of friends. There's not a whole lot of people wanting to go hang out there with the Grinch. And it's like, it's kind of like what this walk is like is at the beginning. And so you got this one guy by himself who's resisting the masses. And the more he interacts, the more he becomes like them instead of being the way he's supposed to be.
Set apart.
Another lesson. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he was truly holy and set apart up on that mountain.
Yep. Now, his attitude was terrible. We get that.
Oh, yeah. We're not saying.
Don't be like the Grinch.
Yes, and no animals were harmed in the making of this production. And, he might be an animal hater.
Yeah.
I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
So, and although you can look up Dr. Seuss, too, and a lot of people think, and maybe so, that he had some very bad qualities. We're not saying we promote him and think that he's this genius and
we don't.
You should read all his stuff. We're not saying that. And
I put a link in here. Dr. Seuss's inspiration for the Grinch. He won't tell you this is his game, okay? And I don't think it is, but it's stunning. The similarities. The similarities are very stunning. He'll say that he got the inspiration from himself. He looked at himself. He was 53. The Grinch is 53. And that was, I've been curmudgeonly about Christmas and I need to stop. That's what this link will tell you from his words. Okay. However, the resemblance is very stark and very obvious to me. And I don't know that like I was saying, I don't know that he meant to go with that, but we have some stories in our minds, and you write a new story, you think, and then lo and behold, it's the same exact story I've been reading.
Yeah.
So very interesting, I think.
No, it's really good. It's really good. So here at Sabbath Lounge, we are not trying to say we know all the answers. Come listen to us. We don't say that at all. And we are encouraging you to go research these things. Research the golden calf moment and see what these people are doing and see how it ties into Christmas. And if you haven't done that, we're asking you to. And if you have done that and you're on this path with us, think carefully about how you talk to your brothers and your sisters and your mom and your dad, literally, about these kinds of things, because so many of us, most likely your moms and dads and brothers and sisters, aren't doing this with you. And
Right.
so I do think we have to be careful about how we approach these subjects. And early on in our walk, if we approach them very poorly, we probably do isolate maybe our moms and dads. And it's a sensitive subject. We don't participate in Christmas with our parents, but those are definitely it does bring up difficult things. And we know a lot of people this time of year, this is difficult, especially if you're new in this walk.
Mm-hmm.
You're used to getting together with your family, and now all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, I can't eat the ham, I can't eat all of this,
Right.
and I can't exchange these gifts with you. It is difficult.
Yeah. And usually this time of year is not the time to bring this up.
No.
Because everyone's full swing into the Christmas spirit.
And just like in this show, there really is a manifestation of a spirit, I believe, especially being in this a while, you see that,
Yeah.
think about how people drive and how aggressive they are in the parking lots. And, the Corona
And they beat you
year,
up for a nice deal at the mall.
yeah, during all this, it's a little bit different than it used to be. But yeah, people get kind of ridiculous, and you see the spirit about.
Yeah.
And it's not good.
Yeah.
So
a lot of people, just real quick, my last words on it is, a lot of people, say, oh, you don't celebrate Christmas, why not? And then I see a lot of people go, well, because I'll keep the biblical feasts, and that's not something I find in Scripture. And that's a nice politically correct answer, but in my eyes, Christmas is it's blasphemous.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I don't do Christmas, because it's a golden calf situation that I'm gonna stay away from.
Yeah, it's truly mixing the holy with the profane.
Yeah.
So, and I do think that there's a lot of information you can find about this. And so to me, it's one of these deals, and this is part of why we do this. We want to help get the word out, because we live in a day and time when you can watch things like this and you can Google these things. And I mean, it's all at your fingertips. And so for those that don't know, they just don't want to know.
No reason not to be able to find answers.
And so we hope to maybe put some seeds of interest out there, and that you'll go check these things out, that you'll research it, that you'll read the text, you'll read the Bible, go back and read the Exodus account of the golden calf, and just research these things. Look at the Hebrew on it. Look at something like the Blue Letter Bible,
Mm-hmm.
and look and see what the actual Hebrew words are there. So anyway, that was good. I appreciate Jake putting this together, and this was a great idea. We hope that it benefits you, and we ask that you like this, you share this with someone that you know out there. And
Yep.
Thank you for listening to Shabbat Lounge.
Thanks.